What's up YouTube, this is Demkeys and today I'm going to teach you how to add single and multiple jump functionality to your characters. Now I'm demonstrating this in a 2D project, but this logic applies to a 3D project as well. So let's begin. First of all, create a quad, remove its mesh collider and add a box collider 2D component to it. Next, create a duplicate of the quad, bring it down and resize it so it can act as the ground for our player. Now rename that object to ground and add a new layer to the project, call it ground and set the ground object under the ground layer. Add a rigid body 2D component to it. Under rigid body 2D, change the gravity scale to 5. Add a new script called jump script 04. Then make sure the player is selected and hit Shift Alt N to create a child and rename the child to ground check. We'll also set an icon for this game object. And then just zoom in and change the position of the ground check object so that it is right at the bottom of the quad but not outside the quad, still within the quad. Next, open up JumpScript 04 in MonoDevelop and now let's add some code here. Public float jump force, private rigid body 2D, R body 2D, public layer mask what is ground, public bool grounded, public game object ground check object, public float ground check distance, public bool can multiple jump, private int jump counter, and public int max jumps. Next, in the start method, rigid body 2D equals get component rigid body 2D, and in the update method type raycast hit 2D hit 01 equals physics 2D dot raycast. We want the ray to be cast from ground check object's position, so ground check object dot transform dot position. We want it to be cast in a downwards direction, so vector 2 dot down. The distance of the ray should be ground check distance, and we want the ray to look for objects that belong to whatever layer we specify in what is ground. Next, bracket hit 01 dot collider not equals null. Now let me explain what this statement means. This is the same as writing if hit 01 dot collider not equals null, then grounded equals true, else grounded equals false. This line and these lines do pretty much the same thing. I'll go into more detail when I'm explaining the entire code. Let's delete this for now and create a new function, void single jump, and another function, void multiple jump. In single jump, type if input.getKeyDown, keycode.space, and grounded, then rbody2d.addForce, vector2.up multiplied by jump force. In multiple jump, type if input.getKeyDown, keycode.space, then if jump counter is less than max jumps, then rbody2d.addForce, vector2.up multiplied by jump force, and jump counter plus plus. This basically means add 1 to the current value of jump counter. Next, if grounded, jump counter equals 1. And also go in the start method and type jump counter equals 1. Finally, in the update method, type if can multiple jump, then call multiple jump, else call single jump. Save the script, and now let's take a look at our entire code. Okay, first of all, we are using physics2d.raycast to cast a ray from the ground check object in a downwards direction up to whatever distance we set for ground check distance, and that ray is supposed to look for a game object that belongs to whatever layer we set in our what is ground layer mask. Raycast hit 2D basically contains information returned about an object detected by a raycast in 2D physics, which is why we are storing whatever information is returned by raycast in hit 01. Now, as I explained to you before, this line and these lines do pretty much the same thing. How it works is if raycast does detect something, hit 01.collider is not going to be null, which means there is ground beneath our player, which means grounded should be true. And so if this condition evaluates to true, grounded will be set to true. However, if it evaluates to false, then grounded will be set to false. Next, if can multiple jump is set to true, then we call the multiple jump function, else we call the single jump function. Now let's take a look at what's going on in these two functions. First of all, we have the single jump function, which is just going to check if the user has pressed the space key and grounded is true or not. If both of these conditions evaluate to true, then we will make our player jump. That's the single jump function. In the multiple jump function, we will first check if the user has pressed the space key, and if they have, then we will check if jump counter is less than max jumps. If it is, then we will make the player jump, and we will also add 1 to the current value of jump counter. And finally, if the player is grounded, we reset jump counter back to 1. Now keep in mind, this logic only works works for multiple jumps. It does not work for single jumps. So only set can multiple jump to true if your player is actually jumping more than once. And of course, that also means that you'll have to set the value for max jumps to anything that is more than one. Save the script, go back to Unity, and now let's set our variable values. Jump force should be 800. What is ground should be ground. We are not going to set the value for grounded. In fact, it should be private, but I've left it public so that you can actually see the value of grounded changing. You don't have to set the value for this on your own. It's going to be set by the script. The ground check object should be our ground check object. So just drag and drop it there. Ground check distance should be 0.2. That's enough. And for now, let's leave can multiple jump to false and max jumps to 0. We'll first see if the single jump is working or not. Hit play, and as you can see, the player is able to do single jumps. You cannot do multiple jumps since can multiple jump is set to false. Now click can multiple jump and set max jumps to, let's say, 3. You can set it to something higher if you want. I'm just setting it to 3 so that the player remains within the view of the camera. Click back in the game view, and now since I've set the value of max jumps to 3, our player will only be able to jump 3 times. So yeah, that's it. So I hope this tutorial was helpful. If you would like to watch more tutorials, you can click in the top left corner of the screen, and in the top right is a link to my music channel where I post music that I make in my free time. In the bottom left corner you have a preview for a small game that I made. The links for the project and the game build are in the description down below. Don't forget to like, share and subscribe. Leave your comments below, and I'll see you guys next time.